Hello everyone. Hi, it's Inky Fingered Cat here, and I ended up making a card, but this is me basically playing with some paints and cardstock. So I've got the Deco Arts fluid acrylic paints and some of the tinting base, and I'm just going to start making a background using 3 different colours. There's primary magenta, and I have no idea what the other 2 are called, so you'll have to bear with me on that one. Some of them I'm adding the tinting base to make a paler, more opaque background paint, and sometimes I'm using the colour Neat, and it's such a heavily pigmented paint and it's transparent until you start adding the tinting base. So I've got a pink, a blue and a purple. I still can't remember what colour's which. And I'm just layering them up with quite a dry brush. I'm not bothering to clean it in between each use. Sometimes I'm using the tinting base and sometimes I'm doing it without. Okay, I think I'm pretty much there on that now, so I'm going to leave that to dry. Now, the piece of cardstock that I used as a palette, all I'm going to do is start spreading the paint out on that, and probably will end up turning that into an ATC at some point. I now decided that I think I need some black in this, so I'm using black gesso. Again, quite a dry brush and just scratching some on in various different places. And then because I put too much gesso on the base, on my palette card, I've just spread that out. I've now got the metallic paints from Finnabair Art Alchemy. I'm adding some splodges on the top, and then I'm just going to do some watering down and dripping in order to get some metallic sheen on the page and also those interesting drip marks. Okay, it's all dry now. Definitely got some metallic sheens and some drip marks in various places, but I've decided I need to go back in again with more of that colour from the Deco Arts paint. This time I'm not adding any tinting base, so it is going to be transparent. So what this means is that you can see all of the textures underneath and all the layers underneath, but it's just adding that colour on top. And it's quite vibrant in places because of the fact that it's such a highly pigmented paint. Okay, I'm really happy with that. Once again, just scribbling all that paint onto the background of the palette. So now I've grabbed a Seth Apter stencil, and this one I'm going to add some black gesso through using cut and dry foam. Making sure that I've not got too much of the gesso onto my sponge so that it's not going to bleed through the stencil, and that's now provided quite a geometric shape. So now I'm going to trim down because for whatever reason the piece of card that I was using, I only ended up doing part of it. So I'm now deciding whether it needs to be cut down any further, and I think it does, so apologies, it was off camera. My trimmer blades also are not very good, so it means that it's quite rough around the edges. Okay, so I've discarded those other pieces and I'm just going to work on this base now. So this time I'm going to do another Seth Apter thing and use a different paint to print. So I'm just adding some sections of the paint. Now what happens when I rub off on the palette paste, it's actually taken some of the gesso as well. It has that pink thing, so it's now provided a nice interesting finish to that palette piece as well. Okay, so I now decide I need some white, so I take some white gesso and I just want to do some flicks and splatters all over the background. Okay, right, happy with that. What I will say is that the Deco Arts paints actually provide quite a good shimmer as well. So not only has it got that metallic paint on it, but it's also got quite a shiny finish with the paints when I've done them as a translucent layer. I also added in some stamping using the Seth Apter Impression Obsession stamps, just to get some text and a bit of different texture really going on in the background. So the first one I did with black gesso, and now I'm doing this one with white gesso. Now I've got a really heavily patterned piece of cardstock. So now I've got to decide what I'm going to use as my feature. I decide on these Stampers Anonymous stamps, the Classics range, and I think that the best thing to do is to stamp the large face using archival onto tissue paper. But what you'll find that I do is I don't do a very good job when it comes to the ripping, and I actually end up ripping half the face off, so I have to do it all over again. This time I decide that I'm going to use my scissors to cut it out rather than ripping it. And then I'm going to use some matte medium from the Galleria Winsor & Newton range, and I'm just going to add that down and then give a good layer, but try not to pull at the tissue paper so that I don't end up ripping it, but to try and get it so it's actually as part of the background. So I edge my artwork with the archival ink, and then I decide that I really like this quote, but it definitely needs something so that it's going to pop out more. I also think that the face just needs a little bit more colour adding back in, because the way the tissue paper is has slightly softened the colours. It doesn't look like it's quite as good a part of the background as I would want it to be. So I'm just blotting off some of the colour. So again, that quote definitely needs something to help it stand out, so I think the best thing I can do is add in some gesso. So white gesso, and I'm just using a palette knife to put it on, checking that it's going to be the right size for the stamp, and then I'm going to dry it off. It does actually bubble a little bit when I'm drying it off, so I just need it to smooth out a little bit more and become a little bit more opaque. So I'm adding a little bit more using the palette knife. Okay, so I've decided this time that I'm actually going to heat emboss the sentiment just to make sure it really pops and it's a really vibrant statement. So this is actually some embossing powder that's a mixture of black and red, which gives it a really cool sort of mottled effect when you look at it up close, but initially it just looked like it's sort of a burgundy browny colour. Again, some more edging needed to be done, and then I'm happy with that as a finished panel. So I found a card blank. I'm not quite sure which card blank I'm going to use yet, but I decided on the white one. I just need something that's going to mount it now. So first of all, I'm not quite sure whether I want the pink or the blue, and I end up with the pink. I think that the pink works better. So I've trimmed it down. You'll notice I've now swapped trimmer to one that's actually got a good blade in it, and now it's just a case of sticking the card together and using double-sided sticky tape to do that. And once it's stuck down, I'm going to trim it so that it's even on each side. and then I'm happy with that. I do think it does need, however, a little bit of navy in the background, just to give it a darker border. So again, I did exactly the same thing, stuck it down, then trimmed it to the right size. So this is the finished picture, the finished card. Really like it, really happy with how it all came together, and I hope you did too. Thanks for joining me. Bye.